Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name is Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And today my guest is Jack McColl, and Jack is from Foundational Finances. And Jack is an extreme sports athlete turned financial coach. Jack is now 27 years old and an entrepreneur and educator. Jack has travelled to over 25 countries while creating 4 six-figure businesses, one of them with a 6-figure acquisition exit. Wow, that's impressive. He now coaches his clients with strategic tools that he's used to get approved for $300,000 credit lines this year while maintaining an 805 fiscal score and scaling 2 new businesses in 2020 to 6 figures. That again is very impressive. These strategies help his clients get approved for the top credit cards on the market with exceptionally high limits in as little time as possible so they can start and scale their business. Wow, very impressive credentials there, Jack. Thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome, Rose. Thank you so much for having me. I'm quite excited to be featured on the show today.
Yeah, so what you talking about is how obviously entrepreneurs can leverage their credit to be approved for business credit with high limits with zero interest of capital. Tell me how that works.
Yeah, 100%. So, I think one of the main reasons I've seen any sort of success in business is because I have the access to borrow large amounts of money in business, specifically at very, very low interest. Most of it being at 0% interest through business credit cards. And so right now I have about $300,000 in credit card limits that I use to scale my businesses. So I think it's so important to take the time to invest into building your credit, which is essentially just building the trust with key lenders. Because once you have more money to borrow, you have the ability to make more money because you have more money working for you.
Yeah, and I know that we live on different sides of the world, and I'm pretty sure the principles would be the same. So if you have no capital, how does one go about getting a high interest credit card or high interest credit at all from a bank or lender?
Yeah, so when you start a business, obviously you need some money, and that's when it's crucial. If you have the good credit, you don't need any money out of pocket because you can leverage your good credit into borrowing money through 0% interest business cards. So, and even if you have personal savings, I'm such an advocate of putting your personal savings into long-term assets like stock market, cryptocurrency, or real estate, and then using the business credit cards to use that money for your business. So if you have the good credit, you can get approved for these business credit cards and use that money to scale. So that's the foundation, building that personal credit, which allows you to get approved for those top tier business credit cards.
Okay, so what people shouldn't be obviously using their business credit cards for personal use, I'm gathering.
Yes and no. You definitely can. It's just a little bit more tricky. But the main reason why you want to get to the business side as soon as possible is because the utilization of the business cards don't report to your personal credit. So if you use the personal cards in business and rack up a balance, it's going to report that utilization to your credit, which is going to decrease your score and make it harder to get approved for more cards. But once you get the business credit cards, you can actually leave very high balances and actually use the money, and it doesn't report that utilization to your personal credit. And so you can use all this money while maintaining a really, really high score. So like, as I mentioned, I have $300K to my name and credit lines, and I'm using most of that money, and it's on the business side, and I'm doing that while maintaining a very, very, very high credit score.
Okay, so I guess if you have got into a business, say you've purchased a business, I know this year wasn't ideal for doing that, but if considering the circumstances, but just as a what if. So you've gone and purchased a business, say a restaurant, and you've got capital obviously to purchase the business, but you've found out that maybe there's a little bit of maintenance that needs to be done on the business, that you knew that when you went into it. So how does one go about, getting the bank to recognise that you've purchased a business that has some flaws with it? Perhaps you've used all your capital, to purchase the business in the first place. So how would they gauge you for getting further credit to, do that maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. So the few things that they're going to be looking at on the business card applications is, what does your relationship with the lender look like? What kind of business is it? What is your estimated revenue on the business? And what does your personal credit look like? So if you have incredible personal credit, which basically just consists of paying on time all the time, having many different primary personal accounts, that just builds trust with the lenders. And then other ways to build trust with the lenders is by opening different personal credit cards with each of the key banks, and also opening up different checking accounts. So both personal checking accounts and business checking accounts. And basically, the more money you're able to put in these checking accounts, the more liquid you look to the bank. And so that specifically can help you out with getting approved for one and approved for high limits for two.
Wow, that's a great tip, actually, because I know when I owned a retail food business some years ago, it was a lot harder to get money in that way. I guess banks are more willing to lend money now, based on your personal credit score, where in previous eons, because it was a long time ago, they didn't so much look at your personal score. They wanted to know more about what your business could offer them. So what you're saying basically is, if you've got a good personal credit score, then the bank is going to look at you more favorably.
Yes, 100%. And so that's why it's so important to build that personal credit up over time. And that's not something you can do very, very fast, because once you get over a certain amount of credit cards in a very short period of time on the personal side, it actually looks very risky for lenders. So you have to do it over a period of time. My rule of thumb is apply for a new personal credit card every 2 to 3 months. That way you don't get too many hard inquiries on your credit, which can negatively affect your score. So build that personal side first, and then it's going to set you up for success on the business side. And when you get the business cards, since they don't report to your personal credit, you can get up to 10 in a single day without negatively affecting your score.
Wow, that's a lot of business cards in one day. Wow.
And that's exactly how I'm able to get this many business cards. For everyone watching on the video, I'm holding about 30 different credit cards, which I've gotten in the last 2 years.
Wow. So you're saying that you should you should run your business on credit, basically.
100%. I think that's the best way to do it. And I think the more money you can borrow, the more money you can make, because at that point you have more money working for you. And it also allows you, as I mentioned before, to put your personal savings into long-term assets like crypto, stock market, or real estate, and then use money that you can borrow from the bank at 0% interest or low interest, borrow that money for free to scale your business.
Okay, so there's so many questions I've got that they're running through my head at the moment. How do you pay them all off? I mean, if you're making money in the business, but you're still having to pay all these credit cards off.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, you're spending the money on things that are going to create you an ROI before you owe any interest on the card. So they have an introductory period of that 0% interest rate. And that introductory period can be as little as 6 months or as long as 18 months. So if you have a card that has, say, 0% for 12 months, you want to spend money towards something that you can think make an ROI and much more in that time frame before you owe any interest.
Okay. 30 credit cards. My goodness. I thought when I had 4, I thought that was a lot.
Yeah, you have to know the different bank rules and you build that personal credit. So the more personal credit you have, the stronger relationships you have with the bank, and the more they trust you. And so I also like to think about doing research on the banks that have good business credit cards and building a relationship with those banks. So if a bank doesn't have any business credit cards, I won't build any relationship with them because they have no value to me. So look at those banks that have the business credit cards and then build a relationship with those banks. So go open up a personal checking, go open up a business checking, and focus on those banks first.
Okay. And my mind's gone totally blank now.
And another thing with the credit cards, they come with amazing travel benefits. So there's incredible travel cards. There's cards that come with tens of thousands of airline points. And so I travel full time, and I rarely pay for any of the flights through any of the travel, just from the points that I get through the sign up bonuses. And then also, I have an e-commerce store that allows me to spend a lot of money for the inventory, and I'll receive thousands of dollars a month in just cash back, and then also in credit card points, depending on which of the cards I'm using for that transaction. And then there's different strategies on how to redeem the points. And if you know the right strategies on how to redeem them in the most effective way, you're able to up to 6x the value you have in points. And so you can get much more free travel. And so some of the top travel cards, it'd be a little bit different in Australia, but I think Amex is global. Yeah. So Amex has some amazing credit cards. So this one right here, Amex Business Platinum, amazing travel card. There's also the Amex Business Gold. So I would highly recommend to build a relationship with Amex. They're an incredible company.
Yeah, I know down here though, Amex isn't so widely accepted. I think there's some issues with the amount of interest or credit or percentage they take off the vendor when using the card. So, or when their client uses the card. So yeah, Amex isn't that widely known unless you're, as you say, a business owner. If you're just a coalface person, they're not so widely used. And you've got to pay. I think it's the fact that you've got to pay the whole card off. Like, so if you spend $1,000, you've got to pay that at the end of the month or the end of the billing month. So
yeah, some cards, yes, but other cards are 0% cards. So for the 0% cards, you have 12 months to pay it back.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah, 100%.
So do you have a podcast, Jack?
I do not have a podcast right now. I just have my coaching program, and I promote a lot of free content on my Instagram. My Instagram is @KingOfDebt, and I'm promoting a free course right now for anyone that messages me, close friends. I'll give them the free access link. It's 10 videos, talks all about building your personal credit and getting into business credit as well.
Wow. Okay. And yeah, because I mean, banking's banking, but the rules are slightly different from country to country. But yeah, I pretty much think that what you have to offer businesses, could equate either end of the equator.
Of course. Yeah, the strategies are relatively similar, and I think with Amex being a global power, a lot of the strategies still apply. So, start getting on your personal credit first, build the relationships with those key lenders, and then focus on those business credit cards so you can have access to more money. Because once you have access to more money, you can do so much more. You have more options, you can invest into more things, and ultimately make more money because of it.
Okay, so getting into investing, would you advise that people use their business credit to invest in the share market or other bricks and mortar or cryptocurrency or any of those things?
Specifically no, because I consider those as long-term investments. I think you can make money doing it, but it's also very risky. If there's a market downturn, you have no control of it. Where in other different investments like your business, you have a little bit more control of what happens with those investments. So I like to do personal savings into things like that, more long-term investments, and then using the business credit into shorter-term investments, more things that I'm more so in control of.
Okay, so I guess would you use it to pay your staff wages? Would you use it to buy stock or equipment or stuff like that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, anything that you think is going to grow the business and receive an ROI within that introductory period. So if you have a 12-month 0% card, whatever you think is going to increase your sales and increase the amount of net profit you make in that year, I would 100% and use that money to spend on that.
Okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought to use a credit card to pay wages or I mean, yes, stock. Yes, I would do that. And maintenance. Yes, I would, but not to pay staff wages. So yeah, that's an interesting concept. All right. Where can they find you, Jack? Have you got a website?
Yeah, so the best way to find me is my Instagram, and it's just at King of Debt. I post tons of free content, tons of my Instagram TV, all the time on my stories, tons of free tips. And as I previously mentioned, I have that free course, the 10 video course I'm giving out right now for free for anyone that DMs me close friends. I'll add you to my close friends where I post tons of exclusive content about finance, building credit, investing, travel hacks, all things like that. So definitely reach out on Instagram.
All right. Well, thank you, Jack, for your time. I've run out of questions about credit. I mean, I think you've covered pretty much everything, and I really don't have anything more to ask you.
Cool. Well, awesome, Rose. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Oh, thank you, Jack. It's been a pleasure. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.